Okay, I've got a problem with Rumble. What we got here? Oh, that's the problem. Here. Oh, it's been a long time since I've done this. Copy. Down. Go down, Moses. Okay. We're going to go in just a few minutes, okay, Rocky? Okay, and we're going to try this one more time. Hey folks, Dave from Opposing the Matrix here. You notice my voice is different. It's because I've been sick for 2 weeks. Anyway, I'm just getting on for a very short time today. Don't take this as an indication that I'm going to start doing live shows again. That's in the future sometime, but not anytime soon that I can tell. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about was I haven't been on the air for at least 2 weeks now. And it's because of this thing. This is about to be the worst cold I've ever had in my 67 years living in this matrix. Okay, I have never, ever, 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 to the nth degree ever, had a cold that produced this much mucus and sputum. Okay? Never. I mean, it's nonstop. But anyway, it seems I'm getting better because now I have taste back. I got my taste back. Pretty soon my smell will be back. No, it wasn't. It's not COVID. So, but anyway, it's been real interesting the last few days. It really has. And unfortunately, now my wife is coming down with it, so she can use your prayers. Okay, so she's got a busy schedule. She teaches our grandkids at homeschool here and runs them all over God's creation. And she just, between that and housework and everything else, I try to help her the most I can. But anyway, I digress. So that's why I haven't been on for the last 2 weeks. Now, if those of you who are watching YouTube, what I'm going to go into now is I'm going to rehash some stuff, okay? Because I did do a short with the information I'm going to give you, but I've got more time to do it on here. So anyway, a wise pastor of mine a few years ago, probably a couple of decades ago now, said to me, he said, David, he says, if you're going to get into serious ministry for the Lord, for Yahweh, you're going to have a target on your back. Oh, boy, was he right about that. So anyway, back in the 1990s, I decided to start getting serious. I was always looking for my niche, what to do for Yahweh. What am I going to do? I tried something called a moving ministry, and what that was, we would move our church, basically, to a community center. This is back in the 80s. To a community center because it was so, the patronage had become so large that we could, the church couldn't contain it. And the pastor was getting tired of doing 3 services every day. Well, I don't know. I don't want to get into that. That guy was a real loser. But anyway, yep, I got Rocco in here with me, folks. That's what the noise is. Anyway, so I had that. I was really involved in the singles ministry because I wasn't married yet, and just a bunch of little things I did. And so anyway, what happened was I started praying, Lord, what do you want me to do? And I know that there's offices in the church, in the body of Yeshua, of Mashiach. And, one of them said, well, I don't want to be an apostle because that's over with, okay? Apostles don't exist anymore. for the most part, not in the way they did in the first century. And then there's prophets, and then there's teachers, and you have those that have the gifts of help and stuff like that. So I was, being that I was so interested in prophecy all the time, I wasn't surprised when he said, I'm going to use it in a prophetic sense, and I didn't know what it meant at the time, but he told me, he said he was going to give me the mantle of Jeremiah or Yirmiyahu. So that's all nice and well. And it wasn't long after that I started getting words for people, and seeing things that were going to happen in the future. Now, I didn't go around telling everybody about it because I still think of when you think of the prophetic office. When I think of the prophetic office, I think of the rules that prophets had to go by in the Old Testament, or excuse me, in the Tanakh. And the major rule there was that if you came out with a prophecy and it didn't happen, they held you up against the wall and they stoned you to death, or they put you in a pit, or whatever they did. I didn't really want to get stoned. I mean, I used to get stoned when I was a kid and teenager, but that's another life, another story for another day. But anyway, so I accepted that, what he said. So whatever you're going to do it. So right about that time, around the turn of the millennium, I started to remember. I asked him, I said, well, what's my subject matter going? What's my focus, my main focus? And he said, well, what was your main interest when you were growing up, before you came to know me? And I said, well, he says, I used to really be into UFOs and evolution. So it's like a light bulb went on, bing, above my head, And I said, okay, yeah, especially the prophecy one. Because evolution is a bunch of, it's a pile of dog mess. And the more you look at it, if you look at it with an open mind and an open eye, the more you look at it, the more you see it's Drek. Okay, we use a Yiddish word there. Okay. So my main focus, although I did do a lot of stuff on that subject, I focused more on the UFOs because I've been into UFOs since I was like 3 or 4 years old. My dad was, and he really got me involved in it, and I wanted to be like him. Your typical little boy. So I was pretty versed in what UFOs were. According to what the opinion was of UFO researchers here on Earth. Anyway, so I started thinking about it, and then some really neat things started to happen. I was visiting a friend of mine who lived at Travis Air Force Base. His name was Doug. I'm not going to use his last name, but if you listen to this, Doug, you know I'm talking about you. We were having some kind of meeting in his house. He lived on base housing, and it was a really neat little house that he had. It was a 2-story, and you walked in, and the kitchen was on the left, and then you went further back, and there was a dining room, and then a sitting room, and then upstairs were the bedrooms. Well, in the bathroom. And so we got through this talk we were having, and I think it was about backmasking, how bands were doing that back then, and if you played a record backwards, you could actually hear a message coming out of it. And they usually weren't there to glorify Yahweh. So anyway, I excused myself. I have to use the restroom. It's upstairs. So I went to walk upstairs, and I got it kind of went up, and then there was a landing, and then it made a right-hand turn and went up the rest of the way. Well, I got up to the landing, and I couldn't go any farther. It was the weirdest thing, folks. It was like I was trying to walk through a vat of Jello. That's the way I always equate it. And so I finally gave up, and I went back down, and I said, Doug goes, well, I was kind of quick. And I said, well, it would have been longer had I been able to go upstairs. He goes, what do you mean? I said, there's something on that stairway that won't let me go up. He goes, oh, okay. And back then, Doug used to really be into spiritual warfare. And so all we did is we started praying, and the whole group of us walked up the stairs. And as we walked up the stairs and we prayed, this thing moved up the stairs. because it couldn't handle us. It couldn't handle the name of Yeshua, okay? And it was going to leave as soon as it could. So as soon as I was able to. So what I did is I said, well, how's this thing going to get out of here? Well, stupid question, because they can go through walls. They're interdimensional, right? But I was young back then. I didn't know any better. But so I said, he said, no, just go in that room over there, open up the window. And I did, and we prayed, and you could actually feel the thing go into that room and then depart from the window. Now, for those of you who don't agree that spiritual warfare is available today and is practiced today, well, I was there. I saw that. And it's kind of funny to verify it. I got a copy of that tape, and we had a singles group coming up the next week, and probably about 8 or 10 of us, and we used to meet in this one woman's house. Her name was Irene. She was in the Air Force. Awesome lady. I wish I would have gotten to know her better. I probably would have married her. But anyway, so I said, before we turned it on, it was a cassette tape. If you don't know what that is, look it up. And I said, before you hit play, I said, let's pray. What do you need to pray for? And I said, there's weird things that happen when you play this tape. And I told them what happened. And then some of the more macho guys in the group, oh, you don't need to pray, And even Irene agreed with that, I do think. And so anyway, we listened to it, and about 3/4 of the way through, she goes, I got to go to work tomorrow, so you guys keep listening. I'm going to go upstairs and go to bed. And just let yourselves out when you're done. So we listened, and Irene had gone upstairs, and it wasn't even 10 minutes, and she came flying down upstairs. I swear she missed steps coming down. If there was 10 stairs, it was the same kind of landing as the other house I just described to you. If she made 2 steps on each rise, I'd really be surprised. It was almost like she just flew downstairs. I said, what's the matter? Oh, there's something in my room. And I go, see, we should have prayed. I said, nobody listened to me. Nobody listened to Dave. So anyway, we prayed. We went up there, prayed, and left. But anyway, but when I went up those stairs that day, I had a feeling. The feeling was weird. It was like a feeling of dread, like a fear that went from the bottom of your spine all the way up to the top and then back down again and then down to your feet. Just consumed you. And I always remembered that. I never forgot that feeling. And then I remembered that when I was a little boy, I'd experienced that once, and it was during a UFO event. Pardon me, folks. I can't let this start, because once it starts, there's no ending to it. So anyway, so that showed me that what I experienced that time about UFOs, and what I experienced about the Doug's house, and then again at Irene's, they were all connected, because the fear was exactly the same each time. So I can't believe I'm doing this, and I'm not out of breath. I sort of am a little bit, but anyway. So let's see what happened. So I started getting more and more into this, and then I started to get attacked myself. I would be in bed at night, going to sleep. I hadn't been married yet, and I'd lay in bed, and all of a sudden that feeling of dread would come over me, and then I couldn't move. I was laying in bed, usually on my back, and I was paralyzed. And they know now, they call it sleep paralysis and stuff, but it's not necessarily that. I think it's the enemy has a way of doing that to you, so you can't protest. But so anyway, and you can't move. You can't move your head. You can't even move your mouth to talk. So I remember thinking in my mind, I says, well, I can think in my mind. So I started using the name of Yeshua, or Jesus back then, and praying. And as I kept doing that, I noticed that it was getting weaker and I was getting stronger. So I did that, kept doing it. Then finally I was able to talk, and I told her to get out of the house, and I signed it to the abyss, and I said, don't ever come up again. Just go down there and don't ever come up again in Yeshua's name. So And that happened probably about 6 or 7 times. And I started to wonder myself, I'm supposed to be protected by Yahweh, and these things are happening to me. What's going on? You start wondering, am I really saved? You know, um, is there something in my life that I'm doing that is preventing me from walking in a more righteous and protected manner? And then it hit me. It was explained to me actually from Yahweh. He said, "You're on the front line, right? You're in the battle. You're on the front line. Now the enemy is right on the other side shooting at you, right? When you're on the front line usually, and so." He's going to be going after you or anybody else that's involved in anything else that puts them on the front line. And then I understood. And I heard him say, now if there's a fry cook, an army fry cook that's 20 miles behind the lines, cooking up food for the nighttime for the soldiers when they come back from battle, he's not going to get bothered too much, It usually doesn't get bothered. But, so I started to understand it really wasn't me having problems in my life that was causing this to happen, but the fact that I was involved in such heavy spiritual warfare. So, let's see. I got to kind of regroup, okay? That'd be good too because I got to, wish I would have brought something in here to drink, but I didn't. All right, so. Okay, yes. Let's start to meld into the spirit, the health issues. Okay, and I was a pretty healthy guy. My teens and my 20s, and but I got saved when I was 20 years old. Okay, and I think it was like 1993, 1991. I had my first major health issue, okay? That health issue was my gallbladder went bad on me. And I had to go in and get it removed, okay? But, I don't know, usually guys that are like 32, 33 years old, the gallbladder doesn't go bad on that soon. But, maybe I'm a special case or something. And there's some of you out there who are going, yeah, you're a special case, all right, Dave, yeah, you really are. Anyway, so, let's see. That was right after I had a surgery. No, wait a minute. Right after I had that surgery, my heart started beating weird. They found out I had atrial fibrillation. It's called paroxysmal, which means that we don't know what causes it. Perfect. That word should be put in everything that's for doctors, except my doctor. He's awesome. But paroxysmal heartburn. Paroxysmal, yeah, because they can never give you a straight answer anyway. So we moved out of the 1990s and into the 2000s, right? And I noticed that right around 2000, I started falling for no reason. Every once in a while, I'd be walking, like in the pharmacy I worked in indoors. I just, bam, I go down to my knees. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. But then I remembered a couple years after that, I actually, it happened to be out in the parking lot while I was going to the post office for my boss. And I hit a little oil slick. The cars, they drip oil. Now, normally, when it's cooler out, you can walk through those and it's no problem because they're congealed and they're not slippery. But for some reason, man, all of a sudden, it's like my feet kicked out from under me and I broke my wrist, my right elbow. And I had a stick shift back then, and that was a lot of fun to drive. Anyway, so, let's see, we're going to move forward to like 2008. That's when I met my first wife, Lourdes, and she lived in Mexico, and we ended up getting married. And we did the whole thing where we got married down there, and then she had to live here for 3 months before we could get married up here to make everything look kosher, because we didn't want to break any laws, There's enough people doing that. We even hired lawyers and stuff. So anyway, we got married. She moved up, and one night I bought her a little kitten one time. little striped, black and gray and white striped tiger cat. And her name was Kiki. And Kiki used to like to chase things. She'd play fetch. But the problem was that Lourdes and I were trying to, her name was Lourdes, we were trying to get some sleep, and this cat would always come in and keep us awake. So what I did is I wadded up a piece of paper, I got halfway down the hallway, and threw it in the living room, and I turned to run into the bedroom, and I heard a bang, and I fell to the ground while I popped my Achilles heel, my tendon. So that was interesting, real interesting, and it healed up finally, but so I'm trying to go down the list here. I didn't make one, So that was like 2009, I think. So anyway, we were married for just a month short of 3 years, and Lourdes, she developed a oh, I can't think of the word right now. It's a fluid-filled sac. Anyway, she developed that in her brain, and it popped. And when it did, it just released a whole bunch of bacteria and stuff in it, and it gave her meningitis, and she passed on about 4 days after Christmas in 2010. And that was one of the hardest things I ever had to put up with. But when we were married, she used to say something like, she goes, "Sweetie, do you hear a humming noise? Do you hear like kind of like a low humming noise?" And I went, "No." And but she did, and she heard it several times in different places. And right about that time, there was a guy named Rob Skiba. He's gone. I think he died of COVID. His wife was having some weird problems with her head that was spiritual warfare related. And there was one other person too. There's a stink bug in here. I don't like those. Anyway, so that was a little prelude to her getting that. I can't remember that word. Anyway, that thing developing in her skull and her brain. And like I said, she passed on after she was in the hospital like 5 days. And it passed on the 29th of December, 2010. Anyway, I don't like to talk about that because it still hurts. Anyway, so life goes on and stuff, and I waited about a year before I even started looking around again. Lourdes always wanted me to get married again. It's not good for you to be alone. You need to be married if anything happens to me. I said, okay, and I was kind of lying because I didn't think I was going to. I liked married life, even if it was only 3 years. And I really liked it, and I wanted to continue. And so I got on. I met Lourdes on Christian Mingle. It was a dating site online, and I got back on Christian Mingle, and I met her. I met this a woman named Barbara up here in Oregon, and we really hit it off. We really did. And it's funny because she was having a hard time with another guy named David, or Dave, I think his name was. And so she requested from Christian Mingle to kind of cut him off. Well, when they did that, they cut off all the Davids and Daves. So I go to write to her one day and say, "Oh, you've been rejected. You can't do this anymore." So I wrote to Christian Mingle and I said, "Hey, listen," I said, "I know I can't talk with her and stuff, but can you just talk with her and ask her, I just need to know if it was deliberate." Her blackballing me, so to speak. And they got a hold of her. She was like, no, I didn't want to do that. Anyway, so we got back together again, and what was it? I don't know if I remember this. June 23rd of 2012. We were married up here in Oregon, and I just dropped everything and sold a lot of stuff and threw a lot of stuff out actually, and moved up here. A good friend of mine, Eddie Roper, helped me move up here. If you ever hear listening to this, Eddie, hey, how you doing, buddy? So anyway, I was a pharmacy tech back then, and pharmacy techs up here in Oregon, they don't have it as good as they do down in California. And I worked for two different employers. So one of them was was involved in Dominionism, which is a part of the NAR, and didn't like me because I wore a kippah, the Jewish little hat, the yarmulke. Oh man, that's another story for another day, but it wasn't a fun time. Anyway, um, so after I quit the second job, I realized that my wife worked for um, a little trade college here in Oregon, and if I went to school through them, I get like a 50% discount. And sorry, that was me this time. Uh, I got a 50% discount, and I was able to go to school and collect unemployment at the same time, which was nice. Um, and I finally graduated. Was it 2016? Yeah. Um, in the meantime, I went to work for that college, and I taught pharmacy technician classes there. Okay, so let's get back on track here. So, let's see. So yes, 2016. 2017 was an interesting year because I went to have my, what is it, have my colon scoped, and they found colon cancer in there. And so, man, everything dropped. I mean, the doctors, it was amazing how it just, everything stopped and the focus was right on me. And so they made all the preparations, and I had the surgery, and I had that part of the bowel removed, and then enough above and below where the actual cancer was. And it's funny because the doctor was after the surgery. Oh, she was complaining because I'm a heavy guy, you know. Oh, that fat! It was so hard to work around that fat. I can't believe how much fat. Well, it comes out that fat saved my life because the cancer was growing out of the intestine and into tissue, but it grew into fat. And it can't survive in fat. Okay, so the fat saved my life, so she could go do this, you know. And so I had that, and then things really started getting interesting because I got to get this chronology right. Oh man, so right after I had the cancer surgery, I had an unwell hernia by my navel, and I figured we must get that fixed while we're at it. So they went in and fixed it, but so what happened was because of the cancer surgery, I developed some adhesions in my abdomen, and it actually crimped or cut off my intestines. Sorry, folks, I'm kind of tired. I had one heck of a blockage, and my abdomen got really big, so it broke the mesh that the first doctor put in there, and so they finally got the adhesion to go down. And I remember the nurse saying, she looked at me, she said, "That was close. That was very close. You almost didn't make it." Like, whoa, really? Yeah, it's true. You almost didn't make it. So, after that, I met a doctor up in Salem Hospital. His name was Dr. Jakes. What an excellent surgeon that guy was. What a man. I tell you, he was very theatrical in nature. And when he first walked in, he had nail polish on, golden nail polish, and some eye makeup. And I'm like, oh, no. Then I found out he was involved in theater. So he laid out the plan in front of me, and what they did is they put a mesh in that was about, I think, 6 inches wide and about 10 inches long. Man, that just covered everything. But Dr. Jakes saw the Lord in me. I mean, he came out of the surgery and he told my wife, he says, "There is something special about that guy. I can see it in his eyes, you know." And I think Barbara told him that, well, that's because he's born again. And let's see. And so witness to him, I guess, a little bit there. And let's see. Okay, so not long after that, I developed There's some pain in my right side in the back, and they found out that I had kidney stones. So they made plans, and they did go up and take the stones out. They ablated them first with a laser. Got everything they could out of there. But when they were coming back out, they nicked the ureter. The ureter is the tube that comes from the kidney down to the bladder. And subsequently, I developed an infection, and it went septic on me. So I had septicemia, an infection in my blood. So they got that under control. And another nurse up in Salem Hospital said, that was close. You almost didn't make it. It was very, very close. And so I was like thinking, man, the enemy's trying to take me out, and Yahweh's just throwing left and right punches, and things are getting good, or at least they're not killing me. But all right, so after that, there's been a whole bunch of stuff that has gone on the last few years, little petty illnesses that have gone on that really aren't answerable. I just sit here and go, how the heck did that happen? But last, probably about a month ago, let's see if we get I had about a month, no, this is back in December of 2025. I had more pain this time on the right side, and they did a scan, and they found out I had quite a few stones up there, and some of them were too big to pass, so they were going to have to go up and take care of that. So, which is what they did. And so when the doctor was up there, when I got out of surgery for that, he goes, well, he says, I got some news for you. He said, when I was up there, there was a whole bunch of growth inside your kidney. And he said there was quite a bit of it. And he said, I got everything I could out of there, but I don't know if I got it all, because when he was doing that, I guess it was the liquid in my kidney was turning, what do you call it? The pee was turning cloudy, very cloudy, making it hard to see anything. So he got some out and sent it to a lab. The lab says, yes, it is malignant, but it's a very slow-growing one. There's two of them. One of them is fast and will really take you out quickly. The other one's slow, which is what I've got. And I'm like, oh, geez, what else now? I got a broken back. I broke that about 5 years ago. I'm working on this. We converted this garage into an apartment for ourselves. And so it's been a very interesting life, folks. But and I'm usually pretty good on ladders, but when I got off that ladder and I missed that rung, that was weird, because I usually didn't do that. And I fell down flat on my back, and I cracked one of the vertebrae. But so anyway, what I'm trying to say here now is that if you're going to be serious about fighting for Yahweh, you're going to get fought against, okay? Now, it may not be health problems. It may be finances. He might take, the enemy might take all your money away, somehow, maybe through a market crash or something like that. But anyway, he doesn't like us. As a matter of fact, he doesn't like any person. Even the people that love him, he hates, because we are made in Yahweh's image. So, that being said, all these things that have happened to me I'm an experiment, it seems like, in bad health. And the fact that all these things have happened, and now cancer in my right kidney? Come on. So, the plans are for that is to, sometime in the near future, I'm probably going to have to go up to Portland and to OSHU and have the kidney removed, okay? I'm not happy about that, but it's what they got to do. So, if you walk for Yahweh and you work for Him and you battle for Him, you are going to get picked on, okay? I think what's happening to me is more than picked on, but it's that's the mild cases, picked on. The cases like mine are very malignant and crazy, actually. So I just wanted to say that. Then every once in a while I get on here and I'll say, oh, geez, this happened, and isn't that something? I'm not making light of it. It's just that I've accepted for quite a few years now that when I that I'm not going to get little petty things that happen to me, like 100 little petty things. No, I'm going to get 3 or 4 big things that are going to happen to me because the enemy doesn't want me in the picture. Okay, I'm confident of that anymore. And my wife's been really good about it because I know a lot of women would say, "Oh, well, I'm pulling you out. You're not going to do that anymore. I want you around." And my wife does want me around, okay? But at the same time, she knows that when you make a commitment to Yahweh, you keep that commitment. So we'll see what happens over the years, here, next few years anyway. So I'm running out of breath, and I got other things I got to do kind of fast. So I'm going to say goodbye, and it's been fun doing this show live, but again, it ain't going to happen all the time. Not for a while anyway. So may Yahweh bless you and keep you. May make his face and rise upon you and be gracious unto you. May he watch your going out and your coming in, your rising up and your lying down, and may he give you the peace that passes all understanding. In Yeshua's holy name, amen. Good night, folks.